What is up, movie viewers? Dena Views and Reviews here, asking what you watching. Well, today I am watching Killers of the Flower Moon. This movie stars Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, Lily Gladstone, Janae Collins, Gillian Dion, Jesse Plemons, Tantu Cardinal, and Brandon Fraser. It is written by Eric Roth and Martin Scorsese. It is directed by Martin Scorsese. It is produced by Lisa Frechetta, Shay Cameron, Adam Somner, Martin Scorsese, Daniel Lupi, Bradley Thomas, John Atwood, Leonardo DiCaprio, Dan Fredkin, Niels Jewell, Rick Yorn, and Mariana Bauer. Now, Killers of the Flower Moon is something I have been waiting to see. I've heard a lot about this movie, and it is based upon what has happened in actual history about some factual homicides that took place within the Osage tribe of American Indians or Native Americans or Indigenous people, whichever term that is comfortable for people. I don't know what they prefer, but this is what I'm using. Now, the story focuses on an Osage woman by the name of Miley Kyle, who was married to a white man called Ernest Burkhart, and he is played by Leonardo DiCaprio. Now, Ernest, again, is a Caucasian and the nephew of what is described as a 32nd degree Mason. He's a crooked local official by the name of William Hale that disguises himself as this beloved friend to the Osage nation of people. And he serves almost as a liaison between the white community and the Osage community. He's just friendly to them all. He is said to be a friend to them all. But he had the nerve to call himself King of the Osage Hills. But learning that this stuff actually happened made this movie more interesting to me. Molly Cow was the last full blooded Osage woman, and she was to inherit the massive wealth that was left behind by those before her. So, because she was the last survivor, she inherited a lot of wealth. She, in spite of seeing many of her family and tribe members mysteriously turn up murdered, conveniently leaving again all of their fortune, wealth, land, and rights to their spouses. And these spouses happen to be white people, or they would use what is called financial guardians who were also white men. She also decided to marry Ernest Burkhart. Now, I can't understand that for the life of me. This is something I couldn't get. But anyway, the murders of her people is the basis for this because many of them were all of them were wealthy. This was no secret, of course, to the white people at that time that these people had wealth, but they decided to marry these people, these Indians or native indigenous people. But what is so intriguing with this, these are the same people that invaded their land, this land that we now call America. We are aware that there was some fighting that went on with the native people and that they found themselves overwhelmed with the advanced weaponry and the technology that allowed the Caucasians to eventually take over their homeland. And as a result, they were forced onto reservations, territories that they considered to be pretty much wasteland in an attempt for the invaders to keep what they considered to be prime land or prime real estate for themselves. In their effort to remove the native people from what was deemed good and fertile land, they would constantly, forcibly push these tribes onto, as I said, what they considered or deemed wastelands or they were turned into Indian territories. Again, mostly it was terrain that they considered inhospitable or harsh environments. This had been the case for many Native Americans since the Caucasian invasion. And it also had a lot to do with many of the so called pale faces or no lips seeing these people as less than themselves, as mere savages, unworthy and undeserving of the fertile land. So, around the turn of the century, 1870, Caucasian invaders drove them off their original land dwelling in Kansas and onto a rocky landscape, this particular tribe, and what was presumed to be a wasteland of Oklahoma. Little did they know that this land was full of oil, so much so it stunned even the Osage nation of people to discover the amount of oil that was on that land. Practically overnight, after discovering this oil, this black gold, this Texas tea, the Osage Nation became the wealthiest group of people in the entire country per capita in the early 1920s. Now, the Osage tribe were now a very affluent people. The Ollies paid the Osage Nation more than 30 million in 1923 alone. 1923. $30 million, that would be a bit over $400 million today. So the tribe distributed the royalties equally amongst their tribe members, which were thousands, and their shares were known as head rights, meaning that they could not be bought or sold, only inherited. Any outsiders had to either marry into an Osage family or become a legal guardian. Now, this greatly increased the number of European settlers that wanted to marry people who were from the Osage tribe. These are the exact same white people, once again, that saw them as savages before. They treated them cruel. They were prejudiced against them. But now these European invaders shared pure love. They wanted to be with them before they had this name for their very existence. Now they were intermarrying with them at a very enormous rate, and Osage women were said to be the objects of hot pursuit and perfection by white suitors. And it wasn't for the customs of beauty, it was for the money. As their prosperity increased and increased, so did the number of the people, Osage people, deaths increased. And they were from mysterious circumstances. The white invaders saw this wealth and they wanted a piece of this wealth for themselves. So they came together, developed, and organized a strategy that they could, whereby they could legally have rights and own and control the wealth from these people. They saw this wealth and they wanted that wealth. They began a campaign of manipulation, deception, collusion, and murder by any means to attain the legal rights to this wealth. And one of the main ways, of course, was to marry into this group of people. They would earn their trust. They would even procreate with them. But the objective was to get the wealth. So Osage spouses, the white the white people, they would be found dead. The Osage spouses would be found dead due to mysterious accidents, unusual mishaps, and just some strange misfortune would take their lives, like suicide, shootings, poisonings. There were never any autopsies. Autopsies. There was just rush death certificates. And this meant that the white spouse or the white court appointed guardian would receive and obtain all of the rights to their massive wealth, their oil wealth, and inherit Osage property as well. The scheming and looting of Osage money and wealth was so shamelessly corrupt that lawyers were moving into that region specifically to serve as financial guardians of members of the Osage Nation. These so-called guardians were a result of the federal government passing a law in 1921 that required Osage tribe members to prove their competency, which, if they could not prove it, they would be assigned a financial guardian. And these were just crooked white people or lawyers who were very happy to and eager to become guardians, where it allowed them to steal their money and inherit it upon the death of the Osage person that they were in charge of. It was determined by the Indian Rights Association that these so-called guardians had stole at least $8 million directly from these restricted accounts they were to oversee. They were guilty of withholding their funds from them from denying access to their money. They were overcharging them, and simply they were just ripping these people off. Now the records indicated one guardian in particular, had 8 of his 11 wards conveniently die mysterious deaths. And there was another with 13, and half of his wards also mysteriously died. This meant that they inherited all of the money, all of the resources themselves from these people being murdered. And this is why I'm going to tell you why I gave this a 3.5 stars, because it did give a realistic look to me into the mindset of the despicable people that were full of malice and convoluted methods. It shows some of the methods that they used to trick and mishandle these Osage people. These were some devious individuals, of course, and the fact that they were scheming and setting up a system by which they could rob the people of their land, especially when it came to one of the characters that Robert De Niro played. Oh my goodness, the William King Hale. He was said to be a cattle baron, but he pretended to be an ally, of course, to these people, while his true intention was to gather all of their wealth. He was directly from the ones, he wanted it directly from the ones that had full head rights and had large farms. He was a master of deception, and unfortunately, the Osage people trusted him to their own demise. I mean, I think De Niro played this role very well. Talk about a wolf in sheep clothing. But I just could not understand or comprehend why these people continue to marry and procreate with these Caucasians, knowing their history and experience with them, knowing full well what they were about. I think it did a good job of referencing the Tulsa Massacre. In case anyone doesn't know, it's about Black subjugation as well. The KKK did not go unnoted in this movie, their reference as well. I found this movie to be informative. I felt it was thought provoking and really an eye opening film that delves into America's iniquitous history. 5. Now, Killers of the Flower Moon is rated R. And if you would like to check this movie out, you most certainly can, because it is currently streaming on Apple TV. Subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comment section on what you thought of this movie. What did you think about this review? Let me know your thoughts. This has been Dena Views and Reviews, inviting you to join me right here weekly for my next review and our recommendation. And I want you to remember, it's my view. Now, what are you watching?